Arabella's got some interstellar gator skin boots and a helter-skelter around her little finger. I ride it endlessly. She's got a Barbarella silver swimsuit, and when she needs...
Okay.
It's the Donald Rumsfeld thing. No, I'm not comparing Arctic Monkeys to George W. Bush's defense secretary. Let me explain. When I made the decision to concentrate on music from the past 20 years for season 2, there was something I had to come to terms with. Yes, there are a bunch of albums that I'm aware I missed, but what about those albums that might be more important by artists that have gone by me entirely? Artists I've never heard of and know absolutely nothing about. So where something like the album I did last week, Fame Monster by Lady Gaga, let's call that a known unknown. That is, I was fully aware beforehand that Lady Gaga existed, was popular, and also that I had never heard the music before. But what about the unknown unknowns? The important albums of the past 20 years that I didn't even know existed.
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
When contemplating this, what I did was I wanted to address that gap in my knowledge. So I started looking at music magazines and other online resources like, Rolling Stone, Spin, Mojo, Relics, Pitchfork, Metacritic, all the ones you could think of, looking for the list of the best albums of the aughts and the teens. And once I started going through those lists, I started taking notes on the albums that I kept seeing over and over again, the ones that would appear on pretty much every list. One that was consistently near the top of every list I saw was My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West. But man, given what I've heard about Kanye over the past few years, I really doubt that I can go into one of his releases with anything approaching an open mind at all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
But there were a few others that always seemed to be up there on the lists as well. One of them was Norman
Frosting
Rockwell by Lana Del Rey, and one was AM by Arctic Monkeys. And while I've never actually heard any music by Arctic Monkeys, I definitely heard the name before. Referenced. You listen to podcasts, you watch TV, every once in a while someone will say something and I don't know who they are. So I was curious to check it out. And something interesting. Why is it I don't have a hard time saying Arctic Monkeys instead of the Arctic Monkeys, but I can never get Pixies right? Weird. I can tell you before I even listen to the album that I already like the cover and the album title. When the album arrived in the mail and I started looking it over, I said to Emily, hey, the cover's a pretty clever visual pun. Check it out. So what you see on the screen right here are two different sine waves. One is a higher frequency than the other one. That is, the peaks occur more frequently. The blue one is a higher frequency than the green one. So what we can do is we can use the green one to change the amplitude, that is the up and down height. We can use it to change the amplitude of the blue one. When we change something over time, it's called modulation. So what we're going to do is we're going to amplitude modulate. AM, amplitude modulation. And that's what we get. So what we see now is that the blue one gets a little higher and then a little lower and then a little higher and then a little lower. That's AM, amplitude modulation. Get it? Huh? Get it? For the record, Emily disagrees that this is a pun, but still, AM, Arctic Monkeys, amplitude modulation. Is this thing on?
to shelter from reality. He takes a dip in my...
So, I kind of hate myself for saying this because I feel like I'm being overly repetitive and I've said it time and time and time and time again. But they have this very unique sound. I've said that a lot, but especially with Arctic Monkeys, I feel like they kind of influenced the mid-2010s alternative rock and kind of indie scene. So they had this very, very unique kind of grungy Dad said influenced by like Black Sabbath and the Beatles, and I can completely see that. Very unique sound to them.
After first song, I actually had to stop the album and process. That first song, Do I Want to Know? There's a lot to go through on that tune. First of all, I'm not sure what the thinking was making the first 5 seconds of that album. The entire first thing that you hear is that terrible sounding drum machine just playing the simplest groove ever. But whatever. Then the riff starts, and it's a pretty good one. I'm always impressed with people who can write a good riff. I love coming across something and thinking, how is it even possible that nobody ever thought of that before? That's very cool. And then Alex Turner starts singing. And I really start smiling. Not because he's a particularly spectacular voice. I mean, it's decent. But because for once there's a group from the UK that isn't trying to sound American when they sing. It's clear immediately these guys are from the north of England. He's got that Paul Hollywood short U sound. Have you got the guts? Simmer down and pucker up. I'm sorry to interrupt. Don't know if it's 100% Liverpool. Somewhere up there, though. Yorkshire, maybe? Yep, check it out. They're from Sheffield. Definitely a Yorkshire accent. And then there's the harmony style. Not close harmony. No, never that. It's the let's sing the same melody, only way the hell higher harmony style. To me, this will always be associated with the song Couldn't Get It Right by Climax Blues Band. You know that one? And I kept on looking for a sign in the middle of the night, but I couldn't see the light. No, I couldn't see the light. Kept on searching for. So, to recap what I have so far. Questionable fakey drum sounds, great riff, Yorkshire accent, castrati harmony. I got all that just from the first song. This one actually might be fun. And 4 songs in, yeah, it's still all kind of fun. The guitars are sounding more and more like Black Sabbath as the album goes on. In fact, that 4th song, Arabella, is a straight up copy of War Pigs at times. And I mean exactly the same. Okay, what we're looking at here is a few seconds of Arabella. That's the stereo track up top. This is a few seconds of War Pig with a little fade out at the end down at the bottom. I did not change the pitch. I did not change the tempo. I did not change the volume except for the little fade out. All I did was overlay the two on top of each other. I'm going to play it back now, and I want you to pay special attention to what happens right during this intersection time. All right, check this out. It's much less picturesque without a catchy light. The horizon tries, but it's just not as kind of the eye. In Are You Mine, there is a reference to Lee Hazelwood and Nancy Sinatra's Some Velvet Morning, and that definitely got my attention. That song's 100% wacky. If you don't know Some Velvet Morning by Lee Hazelwood and Nancy Sinatra, do yourself a favor. After the opening 4 tracks, we get what I feel is the first filler tune, I Want It All. It's just the same exact riff for the entire song. It's not a very musical one at that. Number 1 party anthem, actually a pretty slow song, is very Beatles. Like taking pictures of yourself in the zebra crossing outside Abbey Road. That Beatles. Like Oasis, Badfinger, Klaatu levels of Beatles. Mad Sounds, for the most part, is a little 2-chord thing. A lot of it sounds to me as if it could have been written by Lou Reed, except for the extra little harmonic thing that he puts at the end of the chorus. Snap Out of It is another Beatles-sounding guy. Much of the rest of the second half of the album, though, it doesn't have the same energy as side 1. Not by much, but noticeable.
Daydreams.
My days end best when the sunset gets itself behind.
However, like I've said a lot before, I just found myself driven away from that immersion just kind of by how repetitive some of the songs can get. Yeah, there were like a couple slow songs. It's just the drum track to me, I just keep getting drawn to is just the boom, boom, like the bass, snare, bass, and that's it. That's the whole album, you know. It went on for like 4 or 5 songs, took a break for a slow jam, and then continued through the rest of the album.
As I was categorizing the influences I was hearing in AM by Arctic Monkeys, the 2 main ones I kept coming back to were Black Sabbath and the Beatles. And it occurred to me that I had already looked at a band whose 2 primary influences were also Black Sabbath and the Beatles. Specifically when I spent time with Down on the Upside by Soundgarden. But despite the fact that it's crystal clear that both bands were influenced by the same music, the music they produced as a result isn't all that similar. Where Soundgarden is dark and brooding, compositionally dense, even difficult at times, Arctic Monkeys are breezy, poppy, hook-heavy, accessible. Maybe it's the difference between growing up in Seattle under the shadow of Jimi Hendrix and growing up in Sheffield, the home of acts ranging from Def Leppard to Human League to Derek Bailey. Eric would say that the difference is that one had Chris Cornell and the other one didn't. There's a lot of truth to that as well. I don't know though. I think I like Arctic Monkeys. Maybe it's just the palate cleansing effect they're having after a week with Lady Gaga. But I found myself really enjoying parts of this album. Now let's see how I do with Norman
Flaking
Rockwell next week.
I can't lie, I really did like their music. Why'd You Only Call Me When You're High is a classic, but overall I just couldn't get that into it.
Arabella's got a 70s head, but she's a modern lover. It's an exploration she's made of outer space, and her lips are like the galaxy's edge, and her kiss, the color of a constellation, fallen into place.